Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss the conclusions I've drawn from studying American history, conclusions you may not agree with, but you should at least be conversant in these subjects and more. Um, About to have a cat walking across in front of me. Sorry about that, but they live here, so they get to do what they want. All right. Now, I want to discuss, we're still on Woodrow Wilson. We're still about President Woodrow Wilson. It was a monumental turning point in American history. So a lot of things happened in his era, early 1900s. And let's begin. So the Lusitania, a passenger ship loaded with not only passengers, but allegedly munitions, which Carroll Quigley, in his monumental history book of the 20th century, Tragedy and Hope, which is extremely important that you read to be conversant in history. Um, he even outlines the actual armaments that were on the ship. But that ship was bound, and of course, people say allegedly it was munitions on there, but there was supposedly was documentation. So anyway, they were bound for the Allies fighting the Central Powers of Europe. It was sunk by a German U-boat or submarine on May 7th, 1915. It had sailed from New York in spite of public warnings issued by the German authorities for passengers not to get on board, as the boat was loaded with munitions going to be sunk. It was going to be sunk, if possible, as a violation of America's purported neutrality. It was sunk due to the failure of the captain to obey the rules under which he was to sail in submarine infested waters. Recent expeditions to uncover the ship's secrets failed to prove whether or not munitions were actually on the passenger liner. Like I said, though, there was documentation, and many people, and at the time, people understood there was. Anyway, excuse me, incidents like Black Tom Island, the Lusitania sinking, the news media's portrayal of the Germans as the wicked, quote, Hun barbarians, and our close relationship with England led us to participate in Europe's war. William Jennings Bryan, believing that Wilson was going to push us into war, resigned as the Secretary of State in protest. In January 1917, Wilson called upon the European powers to accept, quote, peace without victory. But on February 1st, 1917, the German government, frustrated with America speaking out of both sides of its mouth at the same time, announced that it would sink, this time without warning, any ship, U.S. or other, caught doing business with the Allies. The German government was, like England, an imperial power contesting for supremacy of Europe in the world. And I'm certainly not trying to portray them or any of the belligerents of that hideous cataclysm we call World War I as the, quote, good guys. Wilson said he still hoped for peace, but broke off diplomatic ties with Germany. Then a telegram called the Zimmerman telegram, intercepted by the British, supposedly came from the German government to Mexico. Of course, it could have been a British Secret Service plant. They tried to pull the same kind of stuff on FDR in World War II to get him into World War II against Germany. Made up all kinds of stuff. But anyway, it's another story. So anyway, this telegram promised the return of all territory captured from Mexico many decades before by America, the Mexican War, if it would join the war on Germany's side. Remember, Wilson invaded Mexico and almost declared war against that country. The government of Mexico realized it could not face a war with the U.S. and that Germany's promise of aid was just so much hot air coming from a nation bogged down in the trenches of Europe. So the idea was rejected offhand anyway. 3 U.S. merchant ships were sunk in March, and Wilson went to Congress and asked for a declaration of war to, quote, make the world safe for democracy on April 2nd, 1917. So you see, we did not go to war because of the sinking of the Lusitania, which happened a full 2 years before our entry in the conflict. So I was lied to when I was growing up, the sinking of the Lusitania, and we declared war on Germany. No, that's not what happened. Also, another book I recommend is Ray Abrams' book, Preachers Present Arms, about the American propaganda from the pulpits to try to get us into World War II, preachers saying things like, if Jesus Christ were here and he had a bayonet, or a German's guts would be on the end of it. You know, that's the kind of crap you get from the pulpit, many conservative pulpits anyway. So you got to be careful about that political stuff in church. So it's not Christian, all right? So we're going to go and keep talking about our involvement in World War I, the Great War, it was called, the war to end all wars. Next, we'll continue. Thank you very much. I hope you'll study what interests you. You don't have to agree with me. Hey, I don't care. I'm fine with people disagreeing with me. I just want you to study it and have your own conclusions that you've drawn from studying yourself. That's all. That's all I'm asking you to do. All right. Thank you. Bye bye.